Hey everyone, welcome to What the Flick. Sorry we're late, but it's the Better Call Saul Season 2 finale. Klick, Meredith, Michelle, Alonso. Do we know why it's Klick with a K, according to the internet? Apparently, if you take the first letter of every episode of this season
I did know that.
and jumble it, it spells Frings back.
Friends back. Yep, exactly.
But
Except not quite in the way you expect.
Not visibly yet, but he might be the one who's leaving notes on Mr. Ermintrout's car, maybe?
Yeah, I think when you go back and you start to look at the season as a whole, you start to see little pieces of Fring, little hints. But
Sure.
that note was it. I'm like, I don't think Gus himself went and left that note by any means. Gus would never do that himself, but I'm sure an agent of Gus did that.
But the big story here, obviously, of course, is the McGill Showdown.
Oh, huge.
So that was going to be difficult just from the next to last episode where Chuck collapses.
I thought he was a goner, at least a vegetable.
Well, sure, and then he has to go through the MRI. It's like,
It was exactly what I thought was going to happen, though.
Oh, yeah?
I knew he would. Yeah, that was the thing. It was like when he came in, I was like, that was what it was going to be. Of course, he's still going to hold it against him.
Yeah.
Of course, he's going to use it as evidence. Like, what a brutal decision that he's now left with, too, to either commit his brother. Well, not commit.
No.
He chose not to do that. But his brother sees him taking his authority away.
Sure.
It's almost the same thing.
It's just so painful because Jimmy tries. He tries, and he cuts corners and he does the most dodgy, sketchy things everywhere else in his world. But to Chuck, he's so honest and he cares and he loves and he's like, I just want to do what's best for you. And yet when it comes to Chuck just thinks Jimmy's out to get him and screw him over. And, I started to feel for Chuck when he was in that machine and that whole visual, that was visceral and that was tough. And then, you start to think for a moment, I'm like, oh, wow, once he's back home and he's like, oh my God, Chuck, you've gone off the deep end. Maybe you do need to be committed. And then it's like, oh, this is actually just a ploy. Like, I don't know how much you really want your house covered in the tinfoil. You just really wanted to get Jimmy on that edge.
And I had to say, I kind of saw it coming. Like as soon as Jimmy said, "Well," it's like, no, shut up, stop talking. There's going to be a recording device in this room.
Well, we saw him pick up the,
Yeah, and indeed there was. I can't. It was Matt's site. Somebody wrote that Chuck is to this show what Skylar White was to Breaking Bad. And I don't know that I completely equate the two because I think Skylar for me was more of an actual voice of an actual moral compass.
Reason.
Yeah. And Chuck,
the stakes were certainly different.
Yeah.
Chuck is tricky. I go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, you have a point, Chuck. No, you're bitter, Chuck.
In fact, I think Chuck is the one thing that humanizes Jimmy. Chuck is the factor that makes us think like, wow, Jimmy, you're not a complete criminal yet. You're, the things you do are messed up, but you do it out of love. Everything you do is out of love, not entirely out of self-interest yet. Yeah, a lot of it is out of self-interest. Let's be honest. But he hasn't crossed the line into Saul Goodman. There's still very much a Jimmy McGill and a Saul Goodman that are separate but merging entities. But Chuck and Kim keep him from being Saul. But man, the way that Chuck's going.
So do we think then that the overarching story of Better Call Saul is how he manages to get both Chuck and Kim out of his life to become Saul Goodman? Like, are they the luggage that he has to jettison to go full bore into Saul Goodman?
Maybe, or maybe they're the thing that pushes him to Saul Goodman. I don't know, how much rejection can you take from people you love when you're not, I get that he does some dodgy things, but I just don't think he's a criminal. I don't think that the majority of the things he does, he's outside of the box.
Yeah, but
isn't.
let's remember though that Chuck's resentment isn't just out of like, oh, you're a shifty lawyer.
It's true.
It's the, you embezzled money from our father. You did a lot of chicanery moves throughout our entire childhood and got away with it, and we're still sort of the golden child. The mother on her and with her dying breath ask for Jimmy and not Chuck.
That was so messed up.
Yeah.
But it's not messed up.
It's
She
not her
called out
fault.
son
I mean,
No,
name.
it's messed up that Chuck didn't tell Jimmy.
Yes, that was
That's
messed
what I'm
up.
saying is messed up.
But again, think of it from Chuck's perspective though. Here he's the one who's followed all the rules, and he's the one who's been the good son and the loyal son and the steadfast son and the one who colors inside the line and the one that everybody loves and forgives and constantly overlooks the sins of is Jimmy. And so even he's the one who is stayed by the mother's side, didn't leave, didn't go get food or whatever. And who does she ask for? Jimmy. And so that's just another way for Chuck to be like, God damn it, can I get a break from these people? And I'm not saying it's not justified that y'all are pissed at him for it, but I'm also empathizing with what a shit deal he's got too.
I totally respect that, but I also don't think that him going to get food, like the thing is,
No, of
most
course
of these
not.
things,
Of course not.
they're
Yes.
not big things,
Yeah. No.
and like I get why Chuck is the straight and narrow one and Jimmy isn't, but like you don't love someone because they're perfect, or you hopefully shouldn't, because that would be very hard to live up to.
I've never been a Chuck, but I can understand the resentment of being, the best little boy in the world and not ever getting your payoff.
But-
Like, when do I get mine? When do I get appreciated for all the stuff, for doing everything the hard way while Jimmy coasts through doing everything the easy way?
But he has a huge company.
Yeah.
He's extremely successful. He is allowed to keep that company when he is full on crazy.
Yeah.
Like, to some degree, I think that he has all the privileges he earned. And his family still loved him.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out there.
I'm just saying,
I see
you
both
just
sides of
hit
this.
it on the head. Like, Chuck is very entitled. Chuck is very like, why am I not getting my due? Even though I have a great life, I'm very entitled to all these things that maybe Chuck, if you just inched a little, maybe if you just come out of that white tower, step down a notch and humanized yourself instead of thinking, oh, I'm the perfect good son, everyone should love me because I'm doing everything the right way and I'm chastising and pushing out my brother who maybe is a screw up, maybe he isn't the best person in the world, but maybe if I'd actually offered, as Kim had said in her speech, a hand to every once in a while, maybe he would have actually gotten that love and recognition he wanted. I'm not saying Chuck's a nice guy or anything, but Chuck's a little bit of a nice guy, my lady.
I will take it. I don't know.
And that's why this show is good.
it's a
That's why these
great
characters
show.
are interesting, because there's no pat answer to this stuff.
No, it's so complex. And that's what I think makes it real.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Those
Oh, yeah.
relationships are so realistic, and we're so invested in them.
Yeah,
that we're like,
and so often family relationships are about that thing that happened when you were 12,
Yep.
and that you can't let go of.
Totally.
I think that's part of what makes the writing so good, the acting so good,
Yes.
all of this stuff. There's a lot of complexity happening.
totally agree.
So
Mike.
it's like, Mike.
Mike.
Let's talk about Mike.
Okay, so all right. First off, the shooting training, the sniper.
No. Yeah, give me Mike and Jim Beaver, and
want
like
that.
I'm
Yeah.
popcorn time. I
can
just
we
want to
actually
watch
just get,
those
like-
guys do
Yeah.
almost nothing
Except
It's
shoot and drink.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just like
Yeah.
their acting style is both so wonderfully minimal and just not. They're barely playing to the camera, much less to the third mezzanine, and it's riveting always.
This is all I'm asking for. We've got a whole season, we've got a whole year to wait for a new season. Give us a little web series of them. It has to be like little 5 to 7 minutes, just them. That's all I want. That's all I need.
Like
I'm
eating
happy.
peanuts at a bar.
Exactly,
I'll
right?
watch.
Yeah,
For
I think that would just make them all the money they need in the interim. So I'm okay. But yeah, that scene alone was just like, that was great. But then compare, we're looking at like how emotionally heightened and just like out there, like Jimmy's scene was. Everything about Mike's was slow and methodical and just him waiting for that perfect shot and it never coming.
Why does he want to kill Hector so badly? Why does he risk going up against the cartel when he is so otherwise like mindful of his own safety and of not doing anything rash and of sort of not drawing attention to himself, not poking the wasp's nest. But boy, this one he can't stop himself from doing it.
I almost feel like it's the family element, like his family and his fear for. I do feel like he
they
is
threatened the
more involved,
daughter?
exactly, because
Yeah,
they threaten
with
the
the
daughter,
granddaughter.
and we see them appear in other episodes, like by the pool, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think that his idea of safety is an illusion at this point, that it's probably not real.
Mike's already lost his son to criminals.
Oh, that's a really good point.
I think I don't think it's like a pride thing. I think it is a safety thing. I think it's a I let this happen once. I am not going to happen again. No half measures. Mike is not a man of half measures. If he's going to make something happen, we will see him go the full route. And I think this is where we see Mike going that route, where we know this is a man who does whatever it takes to secure and make sure there are no loose ends.
Yes, okay, I'll buy that.
But whether that's a good decision.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
very
that's a
good
whole
or not,
that's a
but
whole
yeah.
other thing for sure. Yeah. I mean, where do we think? I don't want to get too deeply into predictions here, but where do we think that we're going to come back with Kim next season?
I would like to see her just standing more on her own and more. Everything's out on the table. She knows all about Jimmy's indiscretions, but she's the one who kind of was like, go wrap everything up. Like she still was with him at the end. I think she's willing. I think we're going to see that Kim is willing to bend. So I'm curious to see if she's going to kind of continue down that path. Like I don't know. I'm just really curious if Kim is going to be the cause of her own demise in whatever reason that we don't see her in Breaking Bad. I don't know if it's going to be directly Jimmy pushing her away or if Kim's relationship and Kim causes something.
I guess to me the question is where Kim ends up. To me, depends on how his brother.
Yeah.
What happens? What is that next step? If he proves this, like, what is the next step? How will Kim have to separate herself? Is what I'm wondering.
I guess. Although again, and that's also where we get into that whole prequel thing. Like we know he's still a lawyer on Breaking Bad, and so.
But with a different name.
Yeah, but come on.
Yeah,
you
but
can't.
you couldn't practice law in the same state if you've been disbarred with a different name. That would be
Unless he's fraudulently a lawyer.
But
do you think there's a chance?
But we see him in court working with the same people that would know his face.
Exactly. I mean, we've now seen a TV commercial of Jimmy McGill, which so obviously someone out there will be paying enough attention to know that he's
if it's the same city, I guess.
And he knows all the people in the courthouse because he's been going, and we've seen that that familiarity. I think he probably just chooses to change his name. I personally think that there is going to be a showdown between him and Chuck, where Chuck is like, you are no longer a McGill. You cannot associate with the family.
So like sues him to take the name or something.
Yeah.
Or
just angers Jimmy to an extent, like, fine, I don't want to be associated with you anymore. And he even has a line in Breaking Bad, I seem to recall, about like that people trust Jewish lawyers.
Oh yeah.
And that's why he chooses a name that sounds like it might be Jewish even though he isn't or something like that.
That's true.
That's so
that
funny.
is true.
Yeah. Amazing season.
Yeah.
Anything? If I leave anything out?
I don't think so. Do you have any predictions?
I don't want to predict.
don't wanna
I don't want to.
predict,
I want to let them surprise me.
I'm just I'm also curious about Nacho's role in all this. He's such he's just such an interesting character to me. So I like Nacho.
So whole year to wait for season 3, but it will be worth it, I hope. Thank you guys for being with us this season. We really enjoyed doing these recaps, and thank you all for coming in for these. And we'll see you next year.